What's going on, everybody? Here's Johnny, and today we're gonna be talking about Season 1 of SpongeBob. Is it good or is it bad? Is it nostalgia driven? Well, we'll find out. I'm gonna give you my opinion on it, as well as I'm gonna use a tier list. We'll have 5 tiers, from S to D. S tier means the episode is fantastic, I love it. Everything about it was good. Then we have A tier, which means the episode is still really good, has some good jokes, I would still watch it if it was on TV. Then we have B tier, which means the episode is kinda average. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not my favorite. I wouldn't consider it very good. In the D tier, we have an episode with some major problems, which is more bad than good, and I wouldn't really watch it again in the future. And at the very bottom, we have the D tier, which means the episode is absolute garbage. It has many problems, and I'm gonna avoid this episode at all costs. And then at the very end, we're gonna convert the tier list into a ranking system, so we can get some numbers and compare it to other seasons. Remember guys, this is all just my opinion. If you disagree with me, it's completely fine. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? And with that out of the way, let's get started. So we are starting with Help Wanted, which is one of the episodes that sets up the characters, the places, and what the characters usually do. And this one is definitely an S tier episode. I absolutely love how action-packed it is pretty much from start to finish, especially the ending montage with feeding the fish. I also love how Mr. Krabs and Squidward try to fool SpongeBob into buying a non-existent spatula, which turned out to be real. This episode is very energetic and a perfect way to start the series. Reef Blower is actually kinda weird. It was supposedly created because the recording equipment broke, so they didn't have any dialogues, so they replaced it with this 2-minute animation. On the one hand, it has the energy going on throughout the entire thing, but on the other hand, it's just SpongeBob annoying Squidward and just making a bigger mess than it was before. He didn't even have to use the Reef Blower in the first place. Also, it always bugged me how SpongeBob was able to suck the entire ocean in that tiny backpack. This episode may be short and energetic, but it's also kinda dull. It goes to a B tier. So in Tea at the Treedome, we are being introduced to Sandy and her underwater place. The best part is obviously how Patrick and SpongeBob know nothing about her, and SpongeBob listens to Patrick's advice, which is obviously wrong. I also like how SpongeBob tried to hide the fact that the air is dangerous to him, but why didn't Sandy know it? It's kind of funny to watch SpongeBob struggle and later his fight with Patrick, but on the other hand, I really felt sorry for them. However, this is still an A tier episode. Bubblestand takes place in just one location, outside SpongeBob's house. It's also kind of slow-paced and every joke is repeated multiple times. I like how the crazy technique is actually able to produce bubble art, as well as the harp sound effects in the background. Squidward is being annoyed throughout the entire episode, but at the very end he gets some success. At least until the very end when the world is against him again. This episode almost got to the B tier, but I think it's charming enough to get to the A tier. Ripped Pants starts with SpongeBob being jealous about Sandy and the entire crowd when Larry comes in, and trying to make everybody laugh. It's making his ego go out of control, quickly burning the joke and just make everybody annoyed. Even I was annoyed after a few of his jokes. SpongeBob gets a little bit too confident, but he gets what he deserves. But I like how at the very end he teams up with all the losers and they sing the song. Don't get me wrong, the song is nice and the episode isn't terrible, but ultimately I am not a fan of all this, so it goes to the B tier. So the entire episode of Jellyfishing oscillates between fast-paced jokes and slow-paced jokes. When it's slow-paced, it's just one joke repeated over and over, but all the fast-paced moments have really funny stuff in them. To be fair, it's similar to Bubblestand, and just like it, I think it's charming enough to be in the A tier. I really like Plankton, both as a character and the episode itself. I like how he tried to make false friends with SpongeBob, and he failed, so he straight up started to control SpongeBob's mind. Also, Plankton insulting Squidward was really funny. The plot is very good, and the episode easily goes to the S tier. This episode might seem annoying at first, but in actuality, it has a lot of dumb humor that I really enjoy. I love all of the interactions between SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward, and how they compete with each other. It's simple but great at the same time. Squidward is getting annoyed, but that was him who started the fight, so it was really nice to see him reunite SpongeBob and Patrick together. Also goes to the S tier. I like how overall energetic this episode is, and how stressed SpongeBob is behind the wheel, because That's really relatable. I also enjoy interactions between SpongeBob and Patrick and how he legitimately wanted to help SpongeBob. I was surprised that Patrick actually knew what to do, but yeah, SpongeBob was obviously cheating, so getting the boating license would be unfair. And how they blew everything at the very end was also really funny. Honestly, I thought that's gonna land in A, but no, it's gonna go to the S tier. Next episode is Pizza Delivery, and it's pure fun from start to finish. For starters, it doesn't take long to set the problem up, so we can see more of SpongeBob's and Squidward's misadventures at this desert land. And every single joke they tell is absolutely amazing. SpongeBob's song may be a bit annoying after a few listens, but otherwise there is nothing to dislike. Also, how Squidward stood up to the customer at the very end of the episode is one of my favorite moments ever. Home Sweet Pineapple is also an easy S tier episode. This one has been the funniest so far. Every montage here, from building the house, sleeping at Patrick's, then at Squidward's house. It's just filled with stupid humor that I just absolutely love. Even if the beginning and the ending are a bit emotional, this isn't enough to ruin this fantastic episode. I honestly don't have that much to say about MermaidMan and BarnacleBoy, other than it's just nice to see SpongeBob and Patrick interact with their heroes. I like how they were pretending to be them at the very beginning of the episode, and their fight with MermaidMan and BarnacleBoy at the very end of the episode. It was close to being A, but nope, it goes to the S tier. So Pickles is fun to watch. The beginning with Squidward and customers is pure gold. SpongeBob losing his mind is a well-executed idea, and the little montage of him trying to remember the formula is pretty funny. On the other hand, I don't like the Bubble Bass character. He's just being a jerk for the sake of it, and I felt really bad for SpongeBob. Nonetheless, this episode still goes to the S tier. So much like in Ripped Pants, we get to see SpongeBob's overconfident ego for the first half of the episode. He thinks he can do anything, pretty much causes destruction, which for me is pretty annoying. I don't like this side of SpongeBob. But the second half, with Patrick, the cops, and pretty much everything that happens during the night, is really funny. In fact, it's so entertaining that it balances out the awfulness of the first half, which brings it to the B tier. Jellyfish Jam is pretty much just one thing. Jellyfish just enjoying a song, split up in the middle when they get angry when the music is gone, and that's basically it. The songs and visuals are really cool, but after hearing the first one for like a minute, it gets kinda boring. And I felt bad for SpongeBob and for Squidward. I think this is a B tier episode. It's far from the worst, but there are more entertaining episodes to watch. We again have annoying SpongeBob with his ego, thinking that the Bikini Bottom is actually the moon. Again, I don't like this side of his character. However, the humor with capturing the aliens and the fun on the rocket ship is actually quite good. Comedy gold in Squidward's bedroom. It goes to the A tier. Squeaky Boots revolve around Mr. Krabs slowly losing his sanity due to this squeaky sound. And at least they didn't make this sound annoying to viewers. He treated Pearl quite badly at her birthday, so he got his comeuppance. And the ending bit when he eats the shoes always cracks me up. It's a solid A tier episode. So Nature Pants is weird. SpongeBob just loses his mind. I mean, it's good to see him trying to fulfill his dreams and then realizing that was a mistake. But it all gets even weirder when Patrick tries to catch him, and how Patrick is just all sad. That would be a bad episode, but it has some humor in it, which redeems the whole thing a bit, so it goes to the B tier. Opposite Day, easily one of the best plots so far, definitely goes to the highest tier. Squidward's plan really turns 180 degrees on him, and all the humor made out of the Opposite Day is just platinum. Culture Shock is a pretty cool episode, something different than usual, but talent shows is not my favorite thing in general. However, I like how Squidward ultimately failed to be the star of the show, and SpongeBob, who was constantly rejected, has won. It goes to the A tier. Fun is just okay. I don't mind this song, and it's nice to see Plankton actually being happy and how SpongeBob genuinely wanted to help him, as well as the chase at the beginning was really cool. And the parody of being melodramatic at the very end was also quite funny. Even if the premise of the episode is kinda sad, in my opinion, it's a high B tier. This episode is really fun, starting with SpongeBob training at Sandy's, that weird commercial, to everything at the beach. SpongeBob looks ridiculously hilarious with these arms. And once again, he gets overconfident, but at the end, he pays the price for cheating. The whole thing is hilarious. It obviously goes to the S tier. Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost is another great one. The setup is so random and it has a lot of that stupid humor. Also how they think Squidward's a ghost and how he demands everything is amusing. And he gets punished for his behaviors. In the way that makes sense. After all, they treated him like a restless soul. Also an easy S tier episode. So the Chaperone is a bit melodramatic, but the episode makes up for it with SpongeBob really trying his best to be a good prom date. He kind of fails and looks ridiculous, which makes the whole thing very funny. But at the end, he and Pearl really do have a good time. And I actually really like it, even if prom-related stuff isn't my favorite. And how can you forget the prom literally being destroyed? It's A tier. So I love Employee of the Month simply due to Squidward's and SpongeBob's competition. They really use good amount of gags that are entertaining. Also, I love the rising tension throughout the entire thing. Easy S tier for this episode. I always liked special themed episode in every cartoon. This Halloween one is no different. The mood is here and it's done wonderfully. Besides that, the plot, the gags, the jokes themselves are really good as well. It's nice to see SpongeBob overcome his fears and have fun with Patrick, but the Krusty Krab stuff with the Flying Dutchman is probably the best part of the episode, especially with the twist of SpongeBob's costume. It's an S tier episode. This episode is weird, but in a positive sense. It obviously parodies the transformation from a horror movie, and I like the setup. The ending bit at Squidward's house is really unsettling and unexplained actually. However, it does make a good job at just freaking out Squidward and the entire audience. And I don't know why, but Squidward's panicking is actually kind of funny. But of course, I felt bad for Gary. I think this is an A tier episode. SB129. Great concept, great execution. I love the time travel thing. The setup is hilarious. Everything is Crow in the future is as bizarre as it sounds like, but in a good way. The shenanigans in the past and that weird void are amusing, but weird as well. Right, this weird void always creeped me out when I was a child, and it still gives me an existential crisis to this day. Not to mention how Squidward actually had to admit he misses SpongeBob, and how he is the inventor of jellyfishing. It's S tier, one of the best out there. Karate Choppers is also very cool, but in my opinion it gets boring kinda quickly. But the episode redeems itself later when SpongeBob gets the warning from Mr. Krabs. And the sequence at the park is probably the best part. It's A tier, it's an okay concept, nothing flashy. Overall, I like how SpongeBob and Sandy fight throughout the entire episode. Sleepy Time, definitely my personal favorite plot so far. I love the idea of SpongeBob exploring someone else's dreams, and these dreams themselves are pretty creative and suit the characters. I like Sandy's dreams in particular because it takes place above water. Too bad they went with SpongeBob ruining everybody's dreams, instead of, I don't know, helping them in some way. Nonetheless, it's obviously S tier. Suds is another really cool episode, even if it also starts with a dream sequence. Although this one makes me hungry instead of sleepy, and the eating at night is really relatable, which makes a good setup for this episode. I don't know why, but SpongeBob bubbling Suds is kinda hilarious. Of course, I feel bad for him and kinda feel sick myself by watching it, but when Patrick comes in, the episode becomes a comedy spiral. And it just gets funnier every minute. Patrick obviously has no idea what he is doing, and I love all the treatment sequences. Obviously S tier, the highest rating. Valentine's Day is about Valentines, which in my opinion is complete garbage. Every cartoon has to do a Valentine special, I guess. This one would be bad, but I actually like SpongeBob's chocolate plan, and how Patrick slowly gets crazy and starts rampaging. And because of that, it sits in the middle. It's a B tier episode. The paper, just like Bubblestand, gets a really trivial thing and makes an entire episode about it. But unlike Bubblestand, this one is actually more energetic, and there's a lot more going on. However, at the end of the day, it's still just SpongeBob giggling around with a piece of paper. But I like how Squidward, despite denial, wants the paper back. Just like Bubblestand, it's a simple, charming episode. It goes to the A tier. Arrgh! It's another adventurous episode, and that's a kind of plot I always appreciate. This time is no different. I like how Mr. Krabs got into this game so much that he actually started a real adventure. Although, I don't know how a game could lead to a real treasure. I guess it's just cartoon logic. All the gags with them on the adventure were really enjoyable, just like the entire episode. It goes to the S tier. Now this is an awesome episode. Rock Bottom is just unique. It has its own culture, and overall it seems like a different planet. I simply love it for being different. And watching SpongeBob struggling with the bus was relatively amusing. And SpongeBob struggle with catching the bus was relatively amusing. And all the minor things like the Glove World stuff, and all the minor things like the Glove World stuff, and the weird language, or should I say accent, were really good too. Easy S tier. Texas is a mixed bag. It's truly a roller coaster of emotions. First half will make you sad, the second half is absolutely hilarious, with mocking Texas, as well as we have an awesome chase and a sweet moment at the very end. I prefer the second half, honestly, because I'm not a huge fan of sadness in SpongeBob. It's not what I associate this cartoon with, but the entertainment values of the latter half bring it up to being an A tier episode. Walking Small is an okay episode. It was funny to see SpongeBob being assertive, or at least trying to be. The general idea of Plankton using SpongeBob for his evil schemes is obviously a recipe for disaster. Overall, it's a generic but charming episode with lots of good gags. It's an A tier episode. Fools in April feels like a risky idea for an episode, because although there can be fun stuff, if the whole episode is about making jokes, they can get boring really quickly. And unfortunately, this is what happens here. Some of SpongeBob's jokes are pretty hilarious, but most of them I would consider cringy. Also, the episode is an emotional roller coaster again. There's the funny stuff, then SpongeBob is annoying, then Squidward makes his cruel joke and tries to apologize, which, by the way, this and the very end of the episode were also hilarious. I love how it all turned out to be a huge April Fool's joke for Squidward, so in my opinion it all balances out to being a B tier episode. Neptune, Spatula, easy S tier episode. The plot is great, the competition between King Neptune and SpongeBob are wonderfully animated and have some great music as well. Not to mention how funny the first half is in the Ocean Museum. Hooky is a simple episode, but one thing that makes it very good is the constant danger the characters are in. That's some dark humor I definitely enjoy, and that's why it goes to the S tier. Also, the second half of the episode with SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs at the Krusty Krab was fun to watch as well. I like how it all turned out to be a trick made by Mr. Krabs and Squidward. I also noticed one scene was very similar to the scene from Help Wanted, when SpongeBob was running out of his home to the Krusty Krab. I think that's a nice reference. And finally, MermaidMan and BarnadeBoy 2. It's nice to see them back. The episode itself is very fun to watch and it has overall season 1 charm to it. Although SpongeBob gets a bit annoying and overuses the heroes, they let him go hang out with them, which is very kind. Yeah, they wanted to get rid of him, but we also get an awesome fight between SpongeBob and Dirty Bubble. This episode goes to the A tier. Awesome, so we finish our season 1 tier list. I gave my ratings and opinions to all of the episodes. So there are 20 episodes in S tier, 13 episodes in A tier, and 8 episodes in B tier, with 0 episodes in C and D tiers. Let's convert it to some numbers and statistics so we can compare it with later seasons. So the S tier is 5 points, A tier is 4 points, and so on. All the way to the D tier, which would be just 1 point. If every episode got 5 points, that would make 205 maximum possible score. Season 1 got 176 points, which is 85.9%. So where would it go on a seasonal tier list? Well, it's actually exactly on the border between S tier and A tier. So where do I put it? Honestly, I think season 1 is a very high A tier. If there was A plus tier, it would be that. It goes to the A tier instead of S tier because season 1 sometimes is kinda just boring. Also, it was before the animation got its full capabilities, and some of the plots were just simple. And let's not forget that some episodes landed in B tier. But obviously, there's more good than bad in this season. So that was my review of season 1. See you guys later in the next video when I'm gonna be discussing season 2. See ya.